Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and we are back for talking tactics. Yes, we've made you wait just that little bit longer, but we are here with talking tactics, and why not reminisce even more over the Aston Villa 6? I have to keep repeating it, Gareth. After Aston Villa 6, Brighton and Hove Albion 1. I mean, first of all, before we get into the analysis, what a game, what a performance.
Excellent. Can't fault it, can you? I think that was more than anybody could have. That's right up there for me. The performance was, and to, as we'll get into it, but to exceed that XG and really sort of punish Brighton, bar an own goal and a deflection, okay, but to really punish them in the game was incredible, really. And it was a mixture of a lot of different things, but us being really good and them being really bad in certain periods of the game. But 6-1, it is what it is. It's 6-1, but it's still 3 points.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. It's just nice. I mean, as I said on our match reaction, I think it was 2013. We beat Sunderland 6-1. We obviously had the 7-2 against Liverpool, but I think that was a bit more of a kind of, if you want to call it freak result. This one was like you say, like specific tactics worked, ruthless finishing, and just like and to be in front of the crowd was just even better. So yeah, it doesn't happen very often, and yeah, to experience that with my son. And my dad was at the game as well. Was just special, and I'm sure there's so many Villa fans that felt the same who were at the game.
Yeah, it's incredible
Just
when
brilliant.
you're seeing goals just going in left, right, and centre. I mean, what's not to like? But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not like you say, like it's more like the Liverpool one was. I know it was sort of an FA Cup sort of kind of vibe to it, wasn't it? It was more like that sort of a freak result. But this one was, as you say, was really well earned.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, we're going to get into it and see how we earned it, because I know you wanted to do the show yesterday. You had everything ready, but you kept thinking of more things that we were doing. So you wanted to make sure that everything was set up. And before we get into the slides and everything, do please hit that like button, guys. Hit that subscribe button. We're very, very close now to 2,500 subscribers, which is fantastic. And obviously that helps us on the road to 3K. So you are the guys who can help us get there. So please do hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. I want to change it up a little bit. I know we mentioned backstage, Gareth. I want to go through the analysis and the kind of stills and sort of match of the day style analysis that you spend so long doing first. And obviously because there were so many things to take into account, I think it's really good if we do that. So let me just get everything ready for you, and let's talk it over. So got about 9 slides to go through. First of all, you wanted to talk about kind of how we set up out of position and what our shape was. So what did you notice?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of sort of analysis posts sort of this game from different sort of Twitter accounts, different things, and a lot of it is pretty good. Some of it is not so good. It's kind of like you're seeing things that aren't really there. In this case, it was really sort of, I've seen this quite commonly now, a very different. Douglas Luiz pushing up, John McGinn coming inside a little bit more. John McGinn's performing two roles here. So if Henselwood drops off, which I find was a strange selection for Brighton, they
Yeah,
need a
very.
bit
I know
more.
you mentioned that in your kind of tweets before the game. You were like,
I
see
did.
how he gets on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of that was a big mistake for me for putting him in the side. And as I said, McGinn's got the ability to come out here to block Estepinian if he needs to. He can also step in on Hinshelwood. Two centre forwards in Watkins and Diaby can spread out wide, and Douglas Luiz is on Gilmore. So they're blocking that even that wide. They're not bothered. Villa are not
Mm.
bothered that there's two centre back. We saw this. Brighton did it against Manchester United in the second half. They decided to stop being so narrow in the build-up and they decided to come out wide with the two centre-backs, and it worked at Old Trafford. It didn't work here because
Yeah.
Watkins and Diaby have both got pace that they can get out and they can take those two centre-backs and they can mark them out of the game if they need to. So really good setup, and Kamara sitting off, but we're McGinn. So you've got that energy in the centre of the midfield, blocking off central areas.
Yeah, it's really attacking. It's really menacing, but also we obviously had pace and power, if you like, to back it up. It wasn't just like squeezing or pressurizing for the sake of it. We know what Watkins is like with kind of pressing and how aggressive he is. We know what McGinn's like if he sniffs blood. We know how fast Diaby is. So it is really. It's not only is it a good setup, but it's really threatening as well in terms of to the opposition.
Yeah, and this is what you're doing. And also, don't forget what we can see is you can't. There's no high line here. We
Yeah,
are a bit inside their own half, but there's no high line. So you've got that big gap in midfield. So Villa were happy to do that. They're happy to
yeah.
see Welbeck drop in and Torres follow him in. Kamara's got the defensive security. We don't need high fullbacks on this. We can drop off. They kind of played into our hands, really.
Yeah, yeah. Let's move on to the next little one we want to talk about, and this is really interesting because you said there blocking off the passes in central areas. And when I looked at this slide, I was like, wow, look at the number of players that are just in that central area.
And this is exactly what it is, because Brighton like to play through the centre. They like to sort of then try and spread out wide when they're in that final third sort of thing. And it was quite, again, I can't say it enough that they kind of played into our hands. You've got sort of Torres that will follow Welbeck in, who was dropping deep. So there's no threat in behind because there's no Welbeck, not the quickest anymore. Evan Ferguson, not the quickest really. So you've got no, apart from ideas, you've got no threat. But Villa didn't seem to be that worried about it. They didn't seem to have to sort of push out wide with Dina and Cash spreading that back four out. It was a case of us being really good, but also Brentford Brighton, not having those ideas. I was quite surprised.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's one of those things where we talked about it on the match reaction, where we talked around, like, as a coach, you go in at 3-0 down, you then get to 4-1 down, in the second half. Do you kind of think, right, it's damage limitation, let's just try and get a foothold back in the game, let's not lose by any more, or let's stick to the way that we play constantly and just keep playing that way? And it seems to me that Brighton just do that. Like, and I know Emery kind of said, well, we either win 6-1 or lose 6-1. It's just interesting the philosophies that managers have. Like, to me, I would be like, if we're in at 3-0 down, like, they're getting an absolute rollicking and we're going out and we're just trying to win that second half, and by
Yeah.
hook or by crook. And it
Yeah.
just seems like that he just was like, well, we'll just keep playing as we do, because it might come off next week.
Yeah, he didn't change anything to Zerbi. He changed personnel. That was it. He
Yeah,
didn't change
yeah,
sort of the way they were playing. He didn't change anything. I thought he would second half, and I thought that the next goal after we went in at halftime was important, because I think
yeah.
if Brighton would have, it might have changed things a bit. But once we were 3-0 up, it was sort of like every attack. The commentator said it, in every attack we were looking like we were going to score.
Exactly. And how we scored in a lot of ways was, how we created space. And I know you've highlighted. I think we've got a couple of slides highlighting this. So what did we do?
Yeah, it's really difficult to try and sort of portray a lot of this stuff on slides, and sort of without sort of having video available. But it was more sort of Zaniolo did a lot of work. He got a bit of a criticism, I think, after the game for not sort of being involved in the game. But his off the ball running was key. I think that was one of his main roles that he was told to perform in this game. We're not going to play out down the left so much, but we need you to make those runs inside. And yeah, he's running into the same space as Watkins, but he's performing the task. He's freeing up Louise in that space there, who I haven't highlighted, but he's also allowing Dina to sort of progress down that left-hand side. And you're taking then another player with you, not just a Brighton fullback, I might add, because that's Veltman, who's in front of Watkins, sort of to the right of Watkins.
Yes.
So they're having to take an attacking midfielder back with Dina.
Yeah. Good point. Really good point. And it was so evident to see how much, like, when we won the ball, I know we're going to come to this in a bit, but how kind of out that chaos, like we did really well with the chaos in terms of being able to capitalize on it. And again, there you've highlighted Louise in the space, and Dina's got all that space down that left hand side to run into again.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. And we're also notifying here that the run of Watkins. Watkins is going to run sort of horizontally across the pitch there, and that's going to drag everybody on that side of the pitch across. So you're essentially going to end up with a 2-on-1 there with Dina and Louise on that attacking midfielder. So it worked.
Yeah. Absolutely, it was a joy to watch. Matty Cash, I highlighted him as along with many other players, but as an unbelievable performance, because not only I think we were quite scared about how he would cope with Matoma, but he not only coped with him admirably, but he also was excellent in attack. Obviously, highlighted by this assist that he got for Ollie Watkins.
Yeah, the best form of defence is attack in this occasion.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that's basically what the ploy was, I think. And Mitoma sort of didn't do anything really, did a few bits in the second half, didn't he? But this again, this is where Steels don't do it justice. On this piece of here, if you remember back, Matty Cash does one go, and then he goes on the third time. So it's almost like he's made 3 or 4 movements there, and then all of a sudden he goes. And this is what Mitoma just couldn't deal with that. And this is for the first goal, as we say. So yeah, perfect. What more can I say? I wanted to do a little bit more on Matty Cash, but it was quite difficult to try and find that really.
Yeah, no, I think it's summed up really well in that. Like I guess it's intelligence as well and persistence. You know, not there's so many players who once they make that first run, they throw their hands up in the air as if to say, "Why haven't you passed to me?" But he not only did that once and went back, did it twice, went back. The third time he then gets the ball, and it's just about like that kind of patience and in the kind of understanding that you will that your runs affect the game regardless of whether you receive the ball or not, and at some point you will.
It was a game of off the ball running, wasn't it? I think if people
Mm.
sort of see it and watched it back, there was a lot of players doing off the ball runs that weren't actually being passed to, but were performing a purpose, if you like. And yeah, I think especially we should shout out John as well, McGinn in that role. He's perfect in these sort of inside. He's got a really sort of wand of a left foot, and he can find that sort of curling pass and a perfect sort of pass. I think he's vital in these areas.
Absolutely. Making space the Diaby way. I like the heading. So yeah, I mean Watkins obviously grabbed the headlines for obvious reasons and for deserved reasons. But what did you want to highlight with Musa Diaby?
Yeah, I think this was highlighted on Match of the Day, if I'm right. I can't remember, but yeah, perfect. Again, another performance of off the ball running. Diaby's just going to burst into this space, and he's going to free up that space on the outside for Watkins. Brighton just can't. They've not even spotted Ollie Watkins coming off of their shoulders on that right there, and it was again, it was quite surprising that this happened. But Diaby has done exactly the same thing, and notice McGinn in that inside left position again.
Yeah, I mean, look at all those. They're either ball watching or obviously
Yep.
looking this way, and it's crazy. It's crazy
Yeah.
to see that. Really interesting to see. Um, and then we've got another instance here where I think
This
this
is the
is kind
same
of
one.
moving on. Yeah, moving on. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
no. I mean,
exactly.
it's the next slide
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
reason I put this in really is because you can see the positions as to where Diaby has then dragged those defenders, and it's Tariq Lamptey with pace, I might add, who's actually followed him in, but he's still been dragged across, and they've still not spotted him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It's criminal.
it's
It's criminal.
but it also shows you I guess the kind of important intelligence of Musa Diaby now, but the fact that we've got different options in attack. We talked last season around kind of, when I know Ollie Watkins has had a fair bit of criticism for not scoring goals, but we've got different options now, like and it could quite easily have been a run that Diaby made in that situation. He's the one who's free and he gets the ball. So it's just it's like he doesn't McGinn doesn't have to play the ball to Watkins. It's just that because Diaby's made that space, Watkins is the option. It could have been all those players go, Watkins is the man who we need to watch, and then he slides Diaby in. It's just great having those options. And I mean, being 3 or 4-1 up obviously helps that situation, but you get my point, yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly that,
Yeah,
and I think it's important that people sort of realise that what you're saying, Emery obviously puts across them. Look, guys, what you're doing off of the ball when you haven't got it is whether you're in possession, but what you're doing off the ball when you haven't got it is just as important as what you're doing when you're on the ball.
yeah, 100%. Last couple, I think we've got talking press and go. So yeah, I guess it does what it says on the tin. Yeah, as soon as we wanted to win the ball, we were just after it, weren't we?
It's where the game was won and lost in the turnovers for us. You know, we every time we turn the ball over in these areas, with Powell stepping into Danny Welbeck and so forth, and it was sort of him winning the ball in the majority of it. You know, and sort of being able to press Danny Welbeck or press Evan Ferguson, and they were then in. You know, because this is again for me, this is only at 1-0. What are Brighton doing here? It is so open, and I think they will be in the analysis room, on Monday, thinking, what have we done here, guys? We're just playing with pace. You're playing up against pace. You know, this is almost what we did against Liverpool, where we sort of
Yeah,
failed. It's the same sort of thing. And massive mistakes from Brighton when you've got two pacey players that are going to be bursting in and win the ball in the centre of midfield. and look at that, we're in. And
Yeah.
it's kind of a sort of you then win 2-on-2. Yeah, all right, you got the fullbacks running back, but it's basic defending from Brighton, really.
Yeah, but it's so much more difficult, isn't it, to be running back? We saw this with this goal that Ollie scores. He's in his favourite position, that kind of inside left position, cuts inside his right foot, and he scores. But it's so much more difficult to be sprinting back, then stop, then the attacker kind of moves and jinks inside. You've got to change your speed. You've got to change direction. It's just so much more
I,
difficult. But
I
yeah,
also I also think this is where Henshaw would sort of I'm not going to cut him, sort of dig him out really, but you needed a more DM in there alongside Billy Gilmore that was a little bit more, let Billy Gilmore play and just let a DM sit there, and they didn't really have that, and it was kind of a little bit, like I say, they played into our hands really.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, wonderful analysis there, guys. Gareth, wonderful analysis from you in terms of the time that you took there. And I think you summed it up perfectly in terms of how we operated and how we beat them. Now, one other point that you wanted to make, that wasn't couldn't be done justice in the kind of stills, but was how direct Emi Martinez was. And you teased this in your tweet yesterday, but I mean, look at that. Look at the long balls.
Yeah, go back to sort of the week before's game, if you like, and see what happened there, where the build-up was from the back, and you'll see a lot more passes sort of coming from these sorts of areas. But yeah, he just wanted to hit Ollie Watkins whenever he could, and they could sort of turn the ball over and keep it to themselves, play off Ollie Watkins, or even just straight off in behind. And it was the black ones are the short passes, obviously, and the red are the long ones. But it was more obvious than anything.
Yeah, and the fact that it wasn't as if we had to win that first ball, and this is where the Hinshelwood thing comes into it, and the midfield battle. Like it was so pleasing and so refreshing to see us absolutely dominate a midfield battle. We've talked so many times about, well, Louise is playing brilliantly, and Kamara is a great player, but sometimes in certain midfields, against certain midfields, they can get a little bit overpowered. But like it was great to see us being that one that could go a little bit more direct, a little bit more kind of I guess old school, if you like, but just win the second balls and really put the pressure on.
Yeah, it was a very similar sort of way to how West Ham are playing this season, I thought, in that game. Sort
Right.
of a very sort of direct to Antonio and sort of playing off of him for Bowen and stuff like that. It was very, very sort of reminded me of that. But yeah, it was just so sort of, it was good to see because it worked. It worked. But
Mm,
like you say, the midfield and that dropping off, and it was just so, they didn't have to do too much, though, Kamara and Louise. In all fairness, they didn't have to do a great deal, did they? It was just
no,
the time on the
no.
ball. Yeah, Brighton got
Yeah.
it wrong for me.
Yeah. Our usual kind of passing networks as well. They do kind of highlight the fact that we went very direct, because the number of passes between Martinez and Torres and Martinez and Konsa aren't as high as they were, any weeks really.
Exactly. Yeah, we just see a lot of red sort of part, don't we, between Martinez and the back two, and with Dina, Cash, Kamara, and Louise, and in those sort of triangles that we've talked about in wide areas. So, yeah, it tells a story, doesn't it?
100%, mate, 100%. And then X threat in terms of passes and contribution. Nice to see Matty Cash towards the top. And I guess that's like you said, that's the best form of defense, because generally it's like the left hand side, isn't it? That's our kind of real area for attack. But this time it was the right.
That's what I say, and I think this is where Emery sort of has come into his own a little bit. He outsmarted De Zerbi on Sunday, make no bones about it. In and out of possession, and he thought we were going to sort of batter them down the left hand side when we chose to sort of more go down the right hand side. Not so much, but we did. It was good to see Matty Cash up there. Yeah, really surprising for me.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then kind of just the XG you talked about, us outperforming our XG. What is that? I know there's so much debate about XG and all that kind of stuff, but hopefully you really explained it well. Hopefully, we try and kind of get people to understand what it means. But yeah, what are your interpretations about us kind of
Yeah,
getting 6 goals or 5 goals at this time based on
yeah, I
our
mean,
XG?
yeah, this data is from Understat. I mean, there's a lot of sort of Brighton. They have other analysts have Brighton ahead of us on the XG. Understat seem to have us against, but it is what it is. But yeah, it's crucial that even people saying, "Oh well, we scored 6 goals. XG doesn't matter." Well, no, all right, fair enough. If that's your opinion, that's your opinion. But by scoring 6 goals, all right, take out the own goal, but you're creating chances and you're scoring them. You're putting them away. You're scoring 6 goals, from an XG of 1.9. That's the marker. That's what the measure is. That's what it's for, so that we can see shot quality. We can see how consistent on our shot conversion rates, how good we are when we create these chances. And we were.
Yeah, brilliant. And then the timeline, um, most eventful XG timeline I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of tells the story, didn't it? The first half especially was really good. Brighton sort of didn't really come into it that much, sort of until the second half, as you can see with the goal. That's about it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I think as you said, Gareth, it was one of those performances where Brighton played into our hands. Emery kind of out coached De Zerbi, and the players executed the plan perfectly. And sometimes you get games and you get days like that, and you just got to kind of bask in the glory, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you have, and it's just one of them sort of things, isn't it? That's sort of the way it goes, and it's a 6-1. You got to enjoy it while you can. But on to the
Yeah.
next, I guess.
On to the next. Yeah, tomorrow. As we're recording this, tomorrow we play in the Conference League. I always get this. Is it Zrinski Mostar? We're playing tomorrow night, and obviously the Wolves on Sunday. So
Yeah.
two kind of tough games for different reasons. Like we don't know what to expect from this team too much on Thursday, and Wolves obviously away. We notoriously don't really do very well there.
No, should be good. So yeah, Wolves. Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one for us because we don't always perform that well, do we? But I mean, let's see how we go.
Yeah, exactly. Be amazing to go into international break on the back of 3 wins in a week and really good form over this October. So yeah, I'm sure we will be back to analyse certainly the Wolves game next week. So look out for that. Gareth,
Yeah.
thank you so much,
All right, mate.
guys. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, help us get to 3K. We're so close to 2,500, and Gareth is a massive part. This show is a massive part in the success that we've had so far. Thank you all for watching. It's amazing that we won 6-1. Great to go through these talking tactics shows, especially after a win. Hopefully we're doing that after Wolves. So have a great week. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone.